There's this great short book by Slavoj Zizek, the kind of cultural theorist, called, oh god, I can't remember his name. It's a line from The Matrix. Welcome to the Desert of the Real, that's what it's called. Anyway, there's a large part of it which is about 9/11 and the attack on the World Trade Center. And there's a really interesting thing he says about that, which I think has some application to this Draw Muhammad Day thing. I mean, what he says basically is that the way that event was characterised later on, particularly in phrases like clash of civilization, East versus West, Islamic world versus Western world, Arab world versus Western world, Occident versus Orient, all those kind of phrases which were bandied around, war on terror. What they do is they do a very particular thing. They create a kind of line in the sand and then frame the whole event in terms of an us-them scenario, which in a way is fine. There's lots of times when two sides go to war, should be dramatised. But what Zizek says is that in that particular instance, it kind of stalls out. He says it leads to what he calls a double blackmail or a double bind. He says, because if you give kind of unconditional support and sympathy for the West, the US in that particular case, then you're pretty much obliged to buy into the idea of innocent America attacked by third world evil, I think he says. I think that's the word he uses, third world evil. And I think most of us feel a little bit uncomfortable with the idea of something as black and white as that, an innocent United States and an evil Arab world. So that's not very good. But if you do the opposite thing, if you try to intellectualise the Arab position and talk through Arab politics and place that in a kind of global context, sure, you come up with explanations. But what starts to happen there is it starts to feel like you're blaming the victims, because obviously the victims in the 9/11 attack were 3,500 Westerners largely, and it starts to look like, as I say, like you're blaming the victims. But that double bind, that either innocence versus evil or blame the victim scenario, those terminal points, according to Zizek, and I think he's right, it come directly out of the draw a line in the sand, clash of civilizations narrative. If you can find a different way of talking about that event, which isn't about an us versus them scenario, then you don't end in those terminal points. And in fact, if you want an intelligent and more representative analysis, you pretty much have to do something different. Otherwise, as you said, you do just stall out in those two dumb one-liners. I think the same is true of this Draw Muhammad Day, or at least it could be true. I don't think it necessarily is true, because on the face of it, the Draw Muhammad Day, which is tomorrow, I think, 20th, yeah. Which what is she called? Molly something, the American cartoonist. The name will come back to me in a minute. Initiated, is a genuine response to a real threat. A small group of Muslim extremists threatened the life of the South Park cartoonists, and that's a genuine threat. It's not a threat against someone's feelings or against their sensibilities. It's a genuine threat against someone's life, and that's undoubtedly an act of aggression. So what do you do? I mean, if you wanted to repeat the 9/11 scenario according to Zizek, you would either, again, have to take sides, which means you would give unconditional support to the creators of South Park and kind of reenact the United States innocence being attacked by third world evil scenario, which again is still crap even after all these years. Or again, you start to try to understand the motivations of the Islamic extremists, and you try to place that within global political and social context. And again, you start to look like you're blaming the victims, because after all, it is Parker and Stone, is it, who have been the victims of an assault, even if it's only a threat so far. So how do you get out of that? I mean, the only way to get out of it is to abandon the draw the line in the sand model. And to be fair, Molly, whatever she's called, the cartoonist, didn't actually institute that in the first place. She just said, let's draw a cartoon, and there could have been lots of different responses to that. It was really Thunderfoot who, at least on YouTube, produce this line in the sand stuff, I'd have to draw a line. That was the phrase he kept using, which really, and accompanied that by images of conflict, which really engraved that, you know, that two sides thing quite deeply, I think. And as I say, unfortunately, you know, represents it in terms of those black and white choices which stall out in the same limited terminal points. Go on, you two, let's go this way. I think there is ways around that, and I'm really gratified to see someone like Dawa Films who did that really, I thought was a really cool action actually, of doing the Draw Muhammad Day himself, just like taking it on, refusing to accept the idea that by drawing a picture of Muhammad, you were simultaneously drawing a line between us and them, and reinterpreting it for a Muslim's sensibility. I thought that was just brilliant. I mean, that's the kind of action which breaks down the conflict metaphor, I suppose, which is what it is, and tries to reinstate it in terms of a different kind of a discourse. You know, you don't need to be a supporter of Islam or a supporter of Western liberal democracies to see the intelligence of that action, I don't think, in comparison to the quite terminal and you know, limited nature of the two sides thing. Yeah, that's what I think. Anyway, here I am at the river again, and there's the mud flats. Look at that view.